what dollar cost averaging does if you're investing in a major stock index, and we're going to use the Dow Jones Industrial Averages as an example. So in this particular spreadsheet, you can see here we've just entered an amount invested, a fixed amount over time, and it is copied here. And we can see the date, and what we're assuming here is we're just going to invest in the Dow Jones at the beginning of every month. In this particular sheet, we've got the first of the month all the way back from now, which is you'll see at the end 2013, but all the way back to January 2nd of 2003. So we were investing over 10 years, and we just want to see what the average is if we just choose a particular day. And I've just chosen the first of the month. So you can see the date in the first column. The second column here is what the average was on that particular date. I created that. Here's your amount invested. Here's the shares bought. It looks very similar to the dollar cost spreadsheet that we showed in the other video. Here's the total shares. Here's our total invested over time. Here's our total worth. And then just as a calculation of the return. So what you'll see here, remember back in 2003, this is about what it was, but you can see how it was going up over time and doing pretty well. We're up to 10,000, gone to 11,000, 12, 13,000, 14 back in 2007. Right now it's just at about 15,000. So you've seen that it's gone from, it started at 8,000 10 years ago. About 6 years ago it was at 14,000. Now you see it started gradually going down. And then you can look at, if you remember, with the mortgage crisis, it went all the way down to, that probably was the low spot, about 6,700. So we've seen the Dow actually over the course of this 10 years go down less than half. And so the question is, does this simple automatic strategy work? Well, remember that it will work. What we're doing is we're taking emotion out of the investment process. We're just doing it easy, automatic. Pull it out of your paycheck is the best way to go over time. And so you could see here, just on a side note, in 2009, if you all of a sudden panicked after seeing it continue to go down over the course of 2 years, you're thinking, oh my gosh, I better pull out now before I lose any money. If you started pulling money out now or around here in 2008 and 2009, you would have lost a lot of money. So anyway, we just keep going, and you can see the gradual rise all the way 2009, 2010, 2011. 2012 was a pretty good year, I think. 2011 and 12. And then 13 is starting as well. So now we can see as of May 1st, we can see we've invested $12,400 over 10 years, and we can see what our total worth is. It's about $16,000. So overall, it's gone up about 35%, and I think the average is going to be about 7% a year. So let's go ahead and look at a couple of other spreadsheets. This is just at the beginning of the month, so you can see your investment is pretty good. What that really is in reality, we'll look in the third video, where we'll look at comparing what you could do through the mutual funds versus CD rates. We'll do a good comparison of that over shorter and long term. But right now, let's look, and let's just say if we did it over the very best day of the year. So I figured out what the best day of the year was over the last 10 years. If you had invested, just say $1,200, which, we were doing $100 a month. So what if you just chose the very best day of the year to invest at an emotional high for you? So you invested that whole $1,200 that you would have done over the course of a year, and you just keep doing that over 10 years, and then you can see with the value of it right now, about that 12,000 we invested in the previous spreadsheet, 12,400. So you can see the 12,000 here that you've invested. Remember, we're adding it up, $1,200 every year. So this $12,000 is now worth, as of May 24th, $15,000. So your return is 28%. Well, that's not too bad. So if we look at, if we had done it at the beginning of the month, averaged it out, our total return would have been 35%. But the best day of the year, when you're on an emotional high, it's 28%. So I mean, that's still pretty good, still decent. Now, what if you were the worst timer in the world and you said, I'm going to invest in the very worst day of the year? I've got that spreadsheet here, and let's see what happens. So I picked the very, very worst day of the year. So you could see that 2009, the Dow Jones was down to 6,500. And this last year, in June, was 12,000 was the worst day. So if you had picked the very worst day and invested, you'll see what your $12,000 has now become almost $20,000. Your total return has been 64%. So you have actually done much better if you have invested on the very, very worst day of the year. So we see how if we have invested on the worst day of the year, it's a 64% return over the 10 years total. Best day of the year is 28%, but then if we just did the beginning of the month on average, it's 35%. So you're not going to be able to time it on the worst day of the year. You're just not going to be able to time that. There's just no way. You won't be able to try it if you can try it, but you won't be able to figure out what the best day of the year is. So if you just do it on autopilot, do it at the beginning of the month or every other month, and you'll get a pretty decent return. So in the next video, we're going to talk about what happens comparing the Dow Jones over the last 10 years to the various CD rates, and we'll show you some formulas, and I'll show you a little bit about how that works. So stay tuned for the next module.